Good evening. Welcome to Table Talk with Pastor Lynne and friends. We are so excited to be with you guys all this evening. We have some that are on their way. We're running a little behind because of accidents, but we are excited to be with you. We have a wonderful show for you all today. We're going to have some real good conversations, right, ladies?
Yes.
And in those conversations, we want you to conversate with us. Like, don't make us do this by ourselves. So this is what I want you to do. If you are viewing in from YouTube, we want you to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We want you to hit that bell so that we can notify you when we're coming on. And we want you to share, and join in the conversation.
Please.
If you are viewing from Facebook, we want you to like. We want you to share. And we want you to join in on the conversation. It is not a conversation, guys, if you are not conversating with us. So please join us in this conversation as we just have some candid conversation. So this is what we do. Let me say this first. If you are wanting us to see your comments and you want us to see that you are in, we need you to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. Give them permission to air your and so that we can view your comments. So they will not do it if you do not give them permission to do so. The link is actually in the chat. So please hit that. Make it so that we are able to see that you are with us and that you are in the conversation with us and that we don't miss what it is that you have to say, because your insight is important to us. So this is what we're going to do. We pull from our trusty basket and we pull a name, a subject, right? A subject. And we just move on from that subject. Whatever the subject is the subject that we talk about. So again, I am Pastor Lynne.
I'm Monique.
I'm Mary.
And you see, we're all distracted, right? Look, and we just want you guys to join in this conversation with us. We are excited about what God is doing.
So a lot of you are making comments after the show. So how about making them during the show? That way we can have interaction. So if you can, please.
Yeah, we want to interact with you.
Yes.
We want to know that you are with us. You are for us. I'm sorry. Okay, all right. I'm sorry. So, who wants to pull? You want to pull?
Forgiveness versus unforgiveness.
Oh, God.
Oh, you want to put this in back?
Oh, my. Okay. Forgiveness versus unforgiveness. Woo! That's a big one. That is a big one. Forgiveness versus unforgiveness. All right. Who wants to start?
I can't even start on that.
Wow.
My mind immediately goes to when you're forgiving someone, it's not necessarily for them, it's for yourself to be released from that. But if you are still angry and hurt by whatever was said or done, it's very hard to get to that place to be able to say, okay, I forgive you, because right now I'm still processing.
Yeah.
Right now I might take you out. Oh.
I haven't forgiven you yet, but
I'll think about it next month.
Well, I think that's very valid when we say that we are forgiven, but we really haven't forgiven.
Exactly.
I hear people say all the time, I can forgive and I forget. But no, you don't forget. But if you're still, every time someone does something that has anything remotely to do with what someone has done to you, and it, kind of pulls out something in you, it stirs up something in your belly, or it makes you angry or anxious, then maybe we really haven't forgiven. Like,
Right.
that's a big thing. Like, knowing that forgiveness is for us, but how do we get to that place of forgiveness?
I think it is a process. You can't do me wrong and expect tomorrow for me to just have forgiven you and be over it. That's true to me. That's just not realistic. I just think it is a process. But I think that if you want to be someone that is forgiven, you have to have that mindset that I'm going to get to that place.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
But a lot of times, if someone does us wrong, we're just done with them.
Yeah.
But Lord knows I can write you off. I'm working on it though. I'm working on it.
A work in progress.
So, what about when you're saying that you have forgiven someone? Does that mean that you have to interact with that person?
No, I don't
You
think
don't,
so.
I don't feel you have to interact with that person. I just feel that, yes, I have forgiven you for me, but I don't have to interact or have a relationship with you, So, and I think that's what goes through a lot of people's heads, what you just asked that. I think that goes through a lot of people.
Yeah.
You forgive someone. I know how to forgive someone, but I think where we have a hard time is letting go.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you put a
Because
wall.
you haven't really, you're right, it's a wall, and you haven't really forgiven. If you can't let it go, you haven't really forgiven.
Right. You put that wall up
Mm-hmm.
to protect yourself. So, my wall is up. If my wall is up, does that mean I haven't forgiven?
I don't know if it's that you haven't forgiven.
So, my wonderful cousin sister in Alabama said, "Keep working on it, sis." Sis, I am working on it. I hear you. I love you, cousin. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, I don't think because you put your guard up doesn't mean that you haven't forgiven them. I think sometimes we go through a protective mode to keep from being hurt again. I think the unforgiveness comes in when that person comes into your sphere of things, right? They come into your space and that anger boils up again. So if I can still love you, I can still wish you well. It doesn't mean that I have to hang out with you, but forgiveness is us being able to say, you know what, I wish you well. I want to see you do good in life, right? We don't want to see you suffer. And sometimes it's hard when you've been hurt over and over and over again.
Right.
It's hard to forgive and just let go. It is a process. It is definitely a process. And I think it's a process on both sides.
Yeah.
It is us both forgiving one another, but I do think it is important for us to forgive. I remember an incident happened years ago. I ain't even gonna tell y'all how long ago because y'all not gonna be judging me. It happened years ago, and I thought, I was like, oh, I've forgiven this person, I'm over it, I'm not. And I saw that person, and when I tell you, the hairs on my back stood up. And I was like, wow, I really have not forgiven this person. Like, we were in the same, I couldn't talk to him. I intentionally did not even want to be on the same side of the room with them. So I moved when they would come in to talk to me. I created a conversation with somebody, so I wouldn't have to talk to them. And I was like, wow, Lynne, you really have not forgiven. And this person went on with their life, right? They're doing great things. They ain't even worried. My whole disposition was changed, right? Like, so there was something that I had not let go of that was still boiling inside of me. And I did not even get to enjoy the engagement that I was in because I was so consumed with not being in the presence of this person. And so the forgiveness really is not just for them. The forgiveness is for you too. It's to help you move forward. And that taught me a great lesson, like Lynn. You have to learn how to really forgive. Like, forgiving is not just coming out your mouth, it's your actions.
Right.
It is definitely your actions. Can you still wish them well?
Not always.
That's true. Okay.
She
I
being
love
honest.
honesty.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that really gets me is when I know that as a Christian that I am supposed to forgive. And so I make that apology to that person, say, but they don't make one back. When they have done you wrong.
Hi.
They have done you wrong. That's the hardest situation to me. Our topic.
Okay.
You've done me wrong, but I'm saying let's let it go and apologizing for anything that I may have done for you to you. And you say, okay, keep walking.
Oh. But see,
That's like a slap in the
Yeah.
face.
I was just gonna say that's
Yes.
like a dagger to
Yes.
the heart.
Yeah.
Right there, because
That's a
you are
tough
pouring.
one.
To me, you're pouring your soul.
Yeah.
You're pouring your heart, and you're apologizing,
Right.
and
And you
To
get that
not-
in return.
have a positive reaction or a positive
And it has
response.
happened, and I'm like, whoa.
I think at that point I would have said, okay, I'm done. Because I think I've learned, and you learn things the hard way. You know, when you apologize to someone, I've had someone apologize to me before, but I wasn't at that point. And this was years ago. I just wasn't at that point yet. Mentally, I just was not there yet. I said, I did say I appreciate it. I appreciate you apologizing. But right now, I'm just not at that point. I didn't just turn my back and say, well, whatever.
Right.
It was more of, I appreciate your apology, but right now, I am not.
Like ready to accept
I'm not.
to like accept
I think
the
both, ready to
apology?
accept it or even ready to apologize back,
Oh, okay.
to return an apology.
Yeah.
Because I think I had to process it in my head. Wait, what did I do? Why am I gonna apologize? See, I think that goes for our minds.
Yeah.
I'm apologizing, but what did I do?
Yeah, how dare you tell me I did something wrong, right? I ain't did nothing wrong. Don't be asking me to apologize. But, and I think that's valid. I think too, and Mo was saying too, is how you make the attempt and the effort to apologize, and the person just like, oh, okay, and walk away. I mean, it makes you feel a certain kind of way. Howsoever, you did your part, right? You did your part. And so somehow we have to be okay with doing our part and not expecting them to actually receive it. Do your part without expecting something reciprocated.
Okay, so
And that's hard.
at that time, I was not in that place. So I'm like, wait a minute now. Hold on.
That's what self says, huh? What?
You might want to come on back over here.
But I mean, that's how it was with those girls, the people that I said I had forgiven. And I'm telling you, we was in the same room, and I was like, yeah, let me go over here.
This is very hard.
It is hard.
I have been in the same situation. It's very hard, but then I had to sit. I actually got up and went to the bathroom. I said, okay, God. I said, you already know, I don't want to bring the old Mary back out. So I need to go back out here. I really did. I said, I need to go back out here and just really enjoy myself, because right now that person doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I have to
and
say
they
that.
having a good time, right? They
Yes.
having a great
They're having
time.
a good time, and I'm sitting over here like,
Man.
See the steam coming out, right?
But we grow
Yeah.
spiritually, mentally, and so I had to do a lot of growing. So now I have no problem with apologizing because I know that if I have hurt someone, or even if I'm not even sure, I would literally, because I'm a face to face, I'm a one-on-one. You know, I'm gonna come directly to you. I'm not gonna go to somebody else. I need to come directly to you if I know I feel in my heart that I need to apologize, or if I need to ask for forgiveness for something I might have said or might have done. And that took a lot of growth.
Yeah.
That
That's a
took a
hard
lot of
one,
growth.
to actually ask for, somebody to forgive you.
Yeah.
It
That
is.
one's a hard one.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is that chance they could say no.
Right.
Yeah.
And
right.
then what?
And then what?
And you know
Yes.
what? And that's when you tell yourself, well, you know what? I've done my part.
I'm not gonna tell myself, I'm gonna tell them.
I'm done with you.
I'm honest.
Forgiveness
we
is,
laugh.
forgiveness is hard when someone has hurt you, especially when it's repeated.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
repeated.
And that one is,
That is really hard.
or when you have to realize that the other person's not going to get it, so you have to decide to just walk away.
Right.
Walk away.
I mean, I've had to do that with a high school friend. I finally, she's never gonna get it. It doesn't matter what I say.
You finally
It
come to
doesn't,
realization.
and she's very much a taker in a relationship. Not
right.
it's I need you and I need you, but she's not gonna be there for you.
Anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Very self-centered, and I finally just had to let that go. But I could never have the conversation with her about it because it wouldn't go
It wouldn't go
anywhere.
anywhere.
It wouldn't go
Yeah.
anywhere. So I just have to kind of forgive and have that conversation, like with myself.
Right,
It is what
right.
it is, and just walk away from it.
Yes.
And you're right, it's really, really hard when you've pretty much been hurt to what I say, the core.
Yeah.
When you've been hurt so bad you hit bottom. That's where I can't even say that I would ever forgive. I won't say never, but I can't even say if I would get to that 100% forgiving. That I forgive you 100% for the damage you did.
But what
But
is that?
I know that I have to.
What does what
Yeah.
look like?
That's a good
I'm sorry.
question. No, but that's a good question.
Forgiving someone 100%, because in my eyes, it just means that I forgive you enough that I'm gonna move past this. You can come with me or you could not. Because what I told you earlier today, 2023 is a year of seeing people for who they are, how they present themselves. That's how I see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too.
You're
I think also with forgiveness is understanding that it's hard to move forward in life without forgiveness. Like if you don't forgive every person that even remotely looks like they're gonna go, you're not giving anybody a chance in life to have a relationship with you. And I'm not talking about just man, woman, I'm just talking about period.
Yeah.
Because you have closed yourself off because you have not forgiven. And I'm telling you, when I got home from that engagement that night, I was so mad at myself. Because I'm telling you, I did not have fun at all. And they ruined and I didn't allow them to do it. I did it to myself.
Right.
Like I did not enjoy myself because I was so consumed with what they had done, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, in my mind, I'm paying back everything they did, right? And I look over and they laughing, and I'm like, how they laughing when they know? Like, so I was spending so much time focused on what they were doing that it hindered me.
Yeah.
And so the forgiveness, when we say forgiveness is for you, it truly is for you. I can forgive you and move on. You don't even have to accept my apology. That's where I'm at in life right now. You don't have to accept my apology. I forgive you and I'm moving on. And I pray that you do well. I want to see you succeed. I want you to do well in life. I have no hard feelings, no animosity at all. And I think that, but it's hard to get there. It took me years to get to that place of saying, it's okay, Lynne, to forgive and move on.
Yeah.
It's okay to do that. And you don't have to be up in their face. You don't have to bring them home. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I can't see. I got my glasses on.
Oh, no.
No, I got these right here. Go ahead.
So Nancy is saying that, I think that if we look at it, knowing that it is not that person, but the spirit in that person that hurt you, we can forgive more easily. Pray for them and ask God to help them see the bad spirit in them.
That's a good one.
I like that,
Yes.
Nancy.
I
Yeah.
saw something that spoke something to that about if you stop looking at who it is that hurt you and maybe focus on why, then maybe you could forgive her, something along that line. So that makes sense what you're saying.
It
Yes.
does. And if you think about what the Bible says, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, right?
Mhm.
This is spirits and darkness. And so it's not a fight with one another. It is what's in that person. So you're right. Thank you for that, Nancy. I appreciate that because it is a reminder of what this battle is that we're in. So go ahead.
I'm just thinking that if someone is so broken and so on guard, they may do something that offends you.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is about taking the time to think,
Yeah.
with what they did, where did that come from? Why would they do something like that instead of just going at the person?
Yeah. Well, they say hurt people. So
Right.
if I'm
That's
hurting,
true.
I don't know how to love you if I'm hurting, right? I'm responding to you. I'm handling you from the place that I'm in. And if I'm in a place that is distorted or vile, that's how I'm going to handle you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's important for you or for us to forgive and learn how to move on.
In addition, I think that we will be showing them how
Mm.
to come up out of that place that they're in, how to deal with the hurt that they've been dished out, how to give sympathy or empathy to someone else who may have done something to them based on what that person's already experienced in their life.
Right.
Yeah. So it definitely is something to think about. Ooh, you're making my head hurt.
Guys, we want to hear from you. What do you guys think
It's a
about
lot.
this? That it is a lot. So what about, I'm trying to see how to push this forward. What about receiving forgiveness? We talked about us giving forgiveness, but what about us being the receiving forgiveness?
That makes me think about like you think you've done your best with your child, say, and they say, well, you have a conversation here and there, and they say something about something that happened along the way sometime, and then you're feeling really bad, like that's not what I meant, or that's not what I meant to happen, and you have the hardest time forgiving yourself.
Mhm.
It is a serious weight.
When it
That's
comes to our
good.
kids,
I've definitely been
we
there.
definitely
Yeah.
have a
They
hard
move
time.
on past it.
But it's eating at us
Yeah.
because we're mom. We're mom, and to go through that, all I can say is that I've been hit with that. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, accepting forgiveness is a big thing. Accepting that you can forgive yourself for what's happened and learn the lesson. I always say learn the lesson from it and move on. And it's definitely hard when it's your kids or a loved one, right? Or just somebody you're close to.
Yeah.
Say, tell you, well, this is what happened, this is how it made me feel. And you're like,
We're definitely harder on ourselves.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
forgiving ourselves for just things over the years. That's probably the hardest.
You know what I was just thinking about too is if you're brought up Christian, you are expected to be forgiving. And I think that sometimes we don't know where to draw the line in that it's okay to step away from somebody. It's okay to love them with a
From a
long
distance.
handed spoon. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to keep taking abuse or being treated like somebody's doormat, that's not what makes you Christian. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And I think sometimes it's not meant for you to be in that place. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are some relationships that we force. There are some
absolutely.
friendships that we force. There are some, I want to say, groups or circles that we force ourselves into. And then when the hurt comes along, now we're just mad at the world, right? Because they've hurt us, but we forced ourselves into that. And so I think there is a level of guilt that comes along when you start feeling like, oh, well, I deserved it, or whatever that the case may be. And we have to learn how to forgive ourselves, because when we don't, we start doing things to make us feel better that 9 times out of 10 is doing more
more damage.
more damage
Yeah.
to us. And I think that is just something that we never. What I do know as a pastor, as one who has taught in the church, I do know we do a lot of teaching on teaching people to forgive others, but we do not teach on how to forgive yourselves. You know, we don't teach that. We're not teaching that you too need to learn how to forgive yourself. Because if you're still hurting, you haven't really forgiven. I did it out of obligation, right? I did it because it was what I was supposed to do, but it wasn't because I dealt with me first. And I think that's important when we're talking about forgiveness and unforgiveness, is we've got to learn how to forgive ourselves so that we can forgive others, authentically forgive others. Because I can just go through the motions and forgive you like they told me I was supposed to, right? Or I can truly forgive you so that I can wish you well. And I think that's important, that we start teaching and giving people permission, not judging them for taking time to say, I need to really forgive Lynne, accept the forgiveness for Lynne. I'm worthy of forgiveness. Right? I'm worthy to live a life without having to live a life of shame or remorse. I'm worthy of that. And I think we don't give ourselves permission to do that, because I think we have taught, and I'm guilty. And I apologize, because I have taught that you need to make sure that you forgive. But you also need to learn how to forgive yourself and accept the forgiveness for yourself.
Right.
And that's hard.
It is.
I think there are times too where you can't always go to that person, whether they're somewhere far or passed on. And so you end up holding on to that because you didn't try to get the forgiveness and move on from it.
Yes.
Yes.
You know. Yes.
Well, and sometimes some people, when they don't accept your apology, that makes it harder to even forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Right? When you try and they're not accepting of it, and you're just kind of like, wow, now what?
Yeah.
You know, now what? I'm trying to, apologize plus heal from it, and you're not even accepting of that.
Yeah.
I also think you have to think about intent, because I know that I have hurt people's feelings and didn't even realize it. I had no
that's
clue, and that's not something that I have I've been more aware of that as I've gotten older. Because when I was younger, I was more like, I am who I am, right? This is me, take it or leave it. But as I've gotten older,
I'm not for everybody.
but as I've gotten older, I've actually taken a different approach, right?
Good.
There's nothing wrong with me being aware of how I make somebody else feel, right? So if I'm interacting with somebody that may be more on the sensitive side, I need to be mindful of that.
Absolutely.
I don't think that that's me not being real, or me not, I guess being genuine, or however you want to put it. I actually think it's being considerate of that other person.
I agree.
But that's not something I wasn't like that when I was younger, and it's not that I sometimes miss it still at 50, but I do. But I just try to turn it around. And,
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things that has helped me, because I'm still learning how to season my words, right, with good seasoning and not that.
Yeah.
I'm still learning how to do that. I had a shirt on the other day that said, "If my mouth doesn't say it, my face will." And my sister said, "Somehow your mouth always ends up saying it."
You say it anyways, right?
But a lot of times I'm not saying it to be malicious. It's just, it's a thought, and sometimes the thought just comes out.
Yeah. I get that.
And we really need to be careful about how we deal with people. And I think too, the thing is when someone comes to you and says that you hurt them or you said something, and you didn't mean it that way, I think it's important for us then to be able to say, take responsibility for what is coming out of our mouth. Because it's their perspective on how they receive it, right? You may not have meant it how they perceived it, but that is their perception, and their perception is real. So is it wrong to then say, you know what? I didn't realize I said it like that. Would you please forgive me? Now, a lot of times, I don't know, let me just speak for me. A lot of times, you just kind of get a little defensive. Like,
You do.
don't be, that ain't how I said it, right?
Right.
Or-
Most of
or-
us do that.
It's, I'm sorry, that's how you took it.
But that's right.
Oh.
Or it's well, that's just how I am. Right? Like
Right.
I've heard a lot of people say that. That's just how I am. And then you've now made it worse.
And then there's the other side of it. You're not allowing this person to really say what they need to say.
Right. Because you shut them down.
You're what do you say? You're already planning your response instead of really.
Oh,
Listening
God,
to
yeah.
them.
We're real guilty of that.
You're already in defense mode.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's hard
so
not to
true.
get into defense mode,
Yeah.
So Nancy said, if God forgives us, we should forgive ourselves and keep it moving. It's a learning process. You're right. You're absolutely right, Nancy. And I think we, as the body of believers, need to start teaching people that and giving people permission to forgive themselves and move on. Like, we got to stop holding it over their head because they don't respond to us the way we want them to respond. So we say, I'm sorry, and they walk away, and then we're mad, right? So we need to be okay with that. We need to be okay with forgiving them and forgiving ourselves and realizing when it was, we had gone, I can't even remember where we went, and this pastor said, Mo, you probably remember that I don't know if he was a pastor, but the speaker was talking about when you get mad at somebody and you talk about how impossible it is for you to forgive them, think about how many times you crossed Jesus. And yet, he still got on the cross and died for you. And I was like, oh, well, you didn't have to say all that, right? But it's the truth. And Nancy has hit it on a good point that God forgives us. So we should be able to forgive others, and we should be able to forgive ourselves, and we should be able to move on. And that's hard.
Yeah.
That's
And
hard.
reality is that we're always harder on ourselves.
Yeah.
When it comes to forgiveness or just owning up. We're always hard. We tend to punish ourselves more severely than others.
Yeah.
And forgiveness is for everybody.
Right.
And we hold on to it longer.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We hold on to the guilt longer,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and in some cases, you've apologized and they've actually forgiven you, but you're still holding on to it.
Yeah.
You're still feeling guilty about it. You still can't let it go.
And why do we just want to carry all
Right,
this?
right.
You know?
Such a heavy load.
Right.
Like-
Like there isn't enough to worry about. We got to add this to it.
Right.
You know,
But
just
it's already raining. We don't want it.
Yeah. It's been a rough couple weeks.
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You think he said something to us?
Right.
So you know when you're already carrying luggage and it gets wet, The water makes it heavier.
Heavier, yeah.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
it's time to let it go.
So what about accepting God's forgiveness?
That's a heavy one.
Yeah, it is. So, accepting God's forgiveness. When I know that I have messed up and I am almost to the point of really not acknowledging it to Him, now not only do I need to acknowledge it, I need to accept His forgiveness. That's a whole lot right now. I'm processing that.
I think sometimes when we don't allow ourselves to accept God's forgiveness, because God has forgiven us, and just because He's forgiven us doesn't mean that we received it. Right? It doesn't mean that we've accepted that. A lot of times we punish ourselves. And we tell ourselves we're not worthy to be used by God because we messed up, right? Because God said, if you repent, I've forgiven you. Like I cleaned you up. I took your unrighteous and I made you righteous, right? I took the dirt and I made you white. Like it's snow. So what is the problem? And I think that we have a hard time accepting God's forgiveness, and we tend to step back from what God is calling us to do or what He wants. We don't listen, or we don't.
It's like we're trying to hide.
Yeah.
Like Adam and Eve.
Isolate yourself, right?
Like you can't see me and hear me, or
Yeah, and that's a hard one, is accepting God's forgiveness.
It takes us humbling ourselves. It's one of the things I learned from my grandmother, because she was you would hardly even know she's not wrong. She was such a humble woman. Even being a wife of a pastor, Southern pastor, she was so humble, and sometimes all it took was a touch of her hand, to just feel that spirit of just humbling yourself, accepting and receiving. And so that's what comes to mind when we say, as far as accepting God's forgiveness. My grandmother and her humbleness, and just a touch of her hand comes to my mind to accept what God has for me, to accept His forgiveness, and to try not to tear down myself so much and hold on to so much. Because it's kind of like, there was a praise dance song that we love to do, and it's just, you're just tearing it all off. You're tearing it off, one piece at a time. So that's what comes to mind with that question.
Wow. So I don't know if you guys caught what I said. Because sometimes there is something that you've done, and maybe it's just me, that I'm carrying that load so maybe embarrassed by it.
Oh yeah.
That I don't even take it to God to apologize, because I just want to pretend like it didn't happen.
It's almost like we're ashamed.
Yeah.
We're ashamed to reveal it.
And
even though He knows.
He knows already.
And I have to say this, not everybody out there knows God. And so what we're talking about may not really click to you in that sense, but you still have dealt with shame, guilt, and that weight that you end up carrying around, instead of apologizing, whether it's to that person, to God, and to God, whatever, just so you're not carrying it. We already have enough to carry in this world.
Right.
Don't add to it.
That's a big thing. When I was younger, one of the reasons I dabbled with drugs and I drank excessively was because I never received God's forgiveness. I always felt ashamed. I felt like I shamed God. I felt like I brought shame on my family. Like my mistakes somehow set the tone for everybody's life. And so I felt like I was not worthy to be redeemed, right? I was not worthy for God to use me. I was not worthy to be in God's presence. So I left the church. And the life just got worse, right? I got deeper into it and then added some other stuff to it, and I isolated myself. But it all came because I never knew that I needed to accept God's forgiveness. Like I never knew that, and I think that's just believing and knowing that God has really forgiven you. Like I'm really forgiven. Like He really does love me, and that was hard for me to accept for a long time. A long time. It was really hard. And I hear people say, now I know God has forgiven me, but have you received His forgiveness?
So now I gotta receive His forgiveness and forgive myself. I'm just making sure I got it right.
Yes. Okay. Well, you do.
Yeah.
You
It's
do.
called homework.
So many of you may not know, I was just diagnosed with breast cancer, and which is why I have my mask on. I'm trying to keep my immune safe, so that I can go through the procedures I need to go through. And I just spent the last week mad at God.
And I was the truth, mad as hell.
I was angry because I felt like I did everything right? I did everything right. I did what He told me to do. I led, I ministered, I did everything that You asked me to do, Lord. Why me? And last night I was sitting, and as I was sitting, one of the things that I realized, I hadn't begun to tell myself that somehow I had done something wrong, right? Like God was punishing me for something I did a long time ago, right? And I'm sitting in my room, I'm like, Lynne, what is wrong with you? Like, you teach people, but when it happens to you, it's a different story. And so I had to remind myself last night that God is forgiving you for your past, Lynne. Like your past is your past. You've been forgiven. He's taught you these lessons, and this is just another segment of your journey. And it's okay. It doesn't mean that God didn't forgive you for what you've done. It doesn't mean that God is here. We don't have
But He's not
that
punishing
kind of, He's not punishing us. We don't have the kind of God who just sits in heaven and says, now, I think I'm going to go back 50 years and pull up some stuff that she did. That's not the kind of God that we have. The God that we have tells us that even in our circumstances, right? Even in winter, even the cup that I have given you to drink this, I was reminded yesterday that the cup that God has given me to drink in this season for my life is a cup that He has specifically designed for me for a reason beyond anything that I know. But what I do know is that He's got something planned. Like something's going to come out of this, right? And it doesn't mean that I'm being punished. It doesn't mean that I did anything wrong. I realized, I was reminded last night that this is something that God has trusted me with. And I need to be okay with that. And that does not mean that somehow that God does not forgive me, that I'm not forgiven, that I'm not worthy, that I'm not useful, that I'm not redeemable. I realize now that's why He chose me, because He is. Right. That I am redeemable. And I think it's just that we have to really start looking at the truth and changing our perspective on how we see forgiveness, how we receive it, how we accept it, how we give it. And I think when we can do that, it's going to change a lot on how we navigate through life. And
Absolutely.
but yeah, when we is to bring this up. I was like, wow, Lord, I was just sitting here the whole last week talking about to you, what did I do? what did I forget to ask? I literally asked God, what did I forget to ask you to forgive me for? I literally was asking him, what did I leave out? In my whole prayers of forgiveness for all these years that I've been serving you, what did I leave out? Where did I mess up? What did I do wrong? And God, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm not a tit for tat guy. Y'all tit for tat. I'm not a tit for tat guy. I'm not sitting back,
Yeah.
waiting for you guys to do something wrong, or I'm not sitting back counting everything. He's not that kind of guy.
He doesn't keep a tally.
He doesn't keep a tally. And I think when we can realize that, it's easier to receive his forgiveness and move on. It's easier to move forward in life when we can sit and really change our perspective of how we see how God handles us.
And Nancy says, praying for your strength and
Oh.
healing, Pastor Lynne.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm actually okay now. I am actually, I'm not happy about, but I know that I serve a mighty God. And I know the God that I serve is going to, he said he won't leave me, he won't forsake me. And I can't teach it and not believe it, right? I can't believe that he can do it for other people, but not do it for me. And I'm just glad that I serve a God who reminds me that I've done nothing wrong. I've done nothing wrong. And only because I can trust you to navigate through this.
So two thoughts come to mind. This is probably so off, but he wastes nothing, and that he has a plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's something that is caused by somebody else, then that's where he wastes nothing, right? But if it's something that is out of our control and he's done it, then he's going to use it somewhere to get his glory, right?
Well, I think he's in control of all of it. So I think every circumstance that we go through, he doesn't waste it. Whether somebody did it to you, right? Or it just happens, right? It's just your circumstances. I think the Lord just does not waste those moments. And even in those moments, he wants us to remember that we're still usable. He is still using us in those moments where we feel unusable, right? He is still redeeming us in those moments when we feel that redemption is not for us, because he's just that kind of God. He's just that type of God. We don't understand why he chooses to do it the way he does, but he is just that type of God. And I love that he reminds me. I don't know about you guys, but I do. I love that he reminds me after I go through my slump, or listen, because I'll go, y'all don't understand, I'll go deep into a pit, okay? And God has to send those that he knows that I will give an ear to, and remind me that he has a plan. He has a plan. When I first heard the news, I was like, okay, so you just gonna kill me? Is that like, you just gonna take my life? Is that what you're gonna do? And because that was my thought process. Like I was really being hard on. I really was, and I went to the extreme. And I would be sitting in the bed and just like, okay, Lord, this is really happening. And it was like, oh well, this is not really happening. Like like I'm just going back and forth. And yesterday, God really showed me that you have been angry with me. And you are blaming yourself, and you think that I'm a tit for tat God, and I'm not. I'm not. I don't blame you for anything. I'm not holding anything against you. You don't have to keep going through this thing of feeling shame that you've done something wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. I trust you, my daughter. I trust you. And that was a wake up, because I had been told that, and then God reminded me again. And I was like, okay. All right, I get it now. I get it now. This is not a death sentence. This is another area of ministry.
This is a different season.
It's a different season,
Yeah.
and he is just using me to minister in a different way now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, Lord, I needed that wake up call. I needed that epiphany, right? I needed him to remind me, you don't have to be ashamed about anything. You don't have to blame yourself about anything. And I think the most important thing that I keep coming back to in my mind is he is not a tit for tat God. The Lord is not sitting around waiting to tally up how much you messed up and say, okay, well, let me afflict her. Okay, let me afflict him. That's not how our God works.
Can you imagine how many of us would fall?
Girl.
But isn't that the
So
situation?
hard.
Yes.
If God kept a tally of every
Oh my God. Oh God.
in our lives
Mm.
that we have done
We've had
or that we have done to others or ourselves, if he kept a tally, can you imagine what this world would be like?
Child.
I mean, would there really
We'd
be
be too
anyone
busy
left?
doing that.
Them
right?
floods we've been
He'd be like,
seeing. Thank you.
There would be
Absolutely.
no one left if he kept a tally.
Absolutely.
But
Erica
God is a
said,
forgiving God.
I'm sorry.
I'm
I'm sorry. I just cut you
That's
out.
all right.
I'm so sorry. Erica said this is a great reminder. It is, Erica. Thank you for joining us. It is a great reminder that we don't have to carry that burden. That God forgives us and we can receive the forgiveness and we can learn whatever the lesson is that God desires for us to learn. And sometimes it's going to be easy and sometimes it's going to be a cup that is hard to drink. And I just happen to have a strong cup of water right now, right? That I have to drink. And I believe that as I'm drinking this cup, that God is going to give me what I need to get through. And we don't have to, there's no blame game. We can accept that just because he loves me. Just because he loves me. And I'm beginning to be okay with that. And I know I'm going to have my days. I know I'm going to have those days where I'll be like, whoo, I don't, can you, I'll be like Jesus, like if this breath can pass.
Right.
But I know that the Lord makes no mistakes. Oh my God, you guys.
That
This is
time already.
already that time. I'm so mad. This has been such a great conversation. I pray that you guys have been able to take away something from this, that if you haven't forgiven yourself for what has happened in your past or in your present, forgive yourself and accept God's forgiveness. Know that once you ask God to forgive you, you are forgiven. You are forgiven, and you can believe that, you can receive that, and you can walk that thing out. So please, I pray that whatever it is that you need to take away from this, we want you to take away from it. We're going to do our last words, and then I'll do our announcements. You guys have any last words?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Just I don't know. I don't want any last words.
It's okay.
I just want to remind you that even in the midst of the storm, there are blessings.
Yeah.
Take the time to notice them, to sit in those blessings, because it may be that blessing that gives you the strength to take the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say that. I just want to say that just remember that when you think about forgiving and forgiveness, in forgiving someone, remember that you're forgiving that person, but remember that it's for you too.
Yeah.
It's to take that weight off of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, guys, I pray that you guys receive something from today. So we normally do a spot out. We like to shout out somebody. And last time I talked to you about this book. I didn't talk to you about this book. This is a book I have been reading. And I just want you guys, if you're struggling, in areas you're gone through some things and you feel like you just can't go through it, girl, wash your face. It's a good book to read. I don't know, you read it, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
read. It's a lot of tangible information and tangible ways that she says, just kind of suggestions and tools and resources to help you navigate through those tough times in life. but she really is about get up off that pity party that you're going through.
Right.
Y'all know this is my book for right now. Get off that pity party that you're going through and wipe your eyes. Get up and do something with what it is that you have been dealt. Listen, we appreciate you guys being here with us. Please join us every 2 weeks. We will be here with another conversation. I will unfortunately not be here for the next couple of months. So if you please will hold me in your prayers, but please join us because these ladies will be here with special guests, with conversations, and continuing to grow our sisterhood with you. So it doesn't stop because I'm not going to be here. It keeps going and it just gets better and better and better. And we just, trust God to do what God is going to do. So please keep me in your prayers as I will be going into surgery next week and then into treatment. And it's going to be for a couple of months that I will be out. But again, they will be carrying this. If you need prayer, please inbox us. We want to pray with you. We want to stand with you. If you're struggling with forgiveness, we want to be that sounding board for you. We want to be that extension of prayer. If you have comments and you just need some extra talking with, please hit us up. One of us will get back to you and we will have this conversation with you. Check out our Transform Trauma page. It's Transform Trauma Healing page. Please check it out. If you want to become a part of it and see what we're doing in that page, we put a lot of resource, a lot of encouragement in that page. Please hit us up, ask us to request to join, and we will let you in. Am I missing anything? Not yet. That's all mode.
Wrong one.
I do. I know that everybody have been expecting to do a workshop. The workshop is going to be pushed out to the summertime, giving me time to go through whatever healing process I need to go through. But the workshop will still be doing it. We're just going to postpone it to the summertime. And so we're just excited. Again, you guys, thank you for joining us. We love you. We pray that you guys have received something from what we talked about today and that it will change your life. Until next time, guys, take care. Peace out.